We've been doing Call of Duty content on this channel for a long time, and I like to think I have a pretty well-rounded opinion on the franchise as a whole, but not too long ago, I stumbled across a video by Ascend AR, shout out to Ascend, about one thing that they hated in every single Call of Duty game, and you know what? That's not something I've ever talked about on this channel, which is pretty rare, so I'm going to give it a try. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos, and today, I'm going to give you my picks of one thing in every single Call of Duty game from COD 4 to Modern Warfare 3 that I hated. Now, hated's a very, very strong word. We could say disliked, something that I did not enjoy, my least favorite thing about each Call of Duty. And if we want to go to the opposite end of the spectrum and we want to do one thing that I absolutely loved about every Call of Duty, we can do that as well. You let me know which of these you hated the most. Drop a like on this video. Make sure you're subscribed. Let's go back to 2007 for the first entry on today's list. COD 4. I'm going to go with Martyrdom. Now, on one hand, I can forgive Infinity Ward for making mistakes with this game's design since it was a totally new experience at the time, but on the other hand, they should have known better. They should have known this perk was going to be a problem. Dropping a live grenade on your body every time you died was a bad idea, but the frag grenades in COD 4, they were juiced. They were ridiculous. And on the smaller maps like Shipment and Vacant, Martyrdom could make the experience almost unbearable. If I could delete one thing from COD 4, I would probably say this is it. World at War. I'm gonna go with the MP40. Look, I love World at War. I think it's one of the best Call of Duty multiplayer experiences we've ever gotten. But that being said, the MP40 ruined the game in a lot of ways. You know it, I know it. I mean, the SMG that was so obviously overpowered that it sometimes made the game feel repetitive and held back to its true potential. There was a lot of guns in this game and a lot of super fun ones to use. But if somebody whipped out the MP40, your only real counter was to also whip out your MP40. Now, if the MP40 was properly balanced, World at War would have played completely differently, and that's really one of the major problems I had with the game as a whole. I loved World at War, but there's no denying the MP40 was a problem. Before we move on, guys, if you get anything from G2A.com, use code CHAOS for some cash back. The link is at the top of the description. Now we arrive at the original Modern Warfare 2. This one's pretty easy, and I'm going to couple two together. My video, my rules. One-man army / noob tubes. You knew it was coming. Modern Warfare 2 had a couple major oversights in its design. The biggest one was actually the fact that one-man army could resupply grenade launchers, and grenade launchers were blatantly overpowered. Now, granted, everything in Modern Warfare 2 is overpowered, but having unlimited noob tubes, that was a step too far. They took it too far. People would just literally spawn in with one-man army and a grenade launcher, sit back in the spawn point, and fire noob tubes across the map until they basically got themselves a nuke. Definitely the worst thing about this game. This one was easy. Black Ops. Oh, the original Black Ops. I'm going to pick Second Chance. This was the Black Ops version of Last Stand, which was introduced in COD 4. So upon hitting 0 health, you drop to the ground, whip out your pistol, and try to get a kill or two before you bled out. Now, however, the Black Ops version Second Chance had a few tweaks to it that made it really annoying. Not only could you actually be revived out of Second Chance if a teammate got to you in time, but there was also a falling animation that you were invincible for. I mean, you had time. I mean, hitting 0 health actually made you unkillable for a few seconds instead of actually killing you. I mean, does that sound fair? Does that sound fun to anybody? Because guess what? It wasn't. Modern Warfare 3. Dead Man's Hand. This is one of the weirdest things ever, because even though Infinity Ward said during the promotional events for the game they were deleting Last Stand, they somehow launched the game with something even worse. Dead Man's Hand was a death streak that would let you drop to the ground upon hitting 0 health, but instead of whipping out a pistol, you whipped out a C4 charge, and you detonated it when enemies got close. It allowed you to wipe out entire teams if they were standing close enough together. You could just run onto a domination flag with Dead Man's Hand, get knocked down, completely clear the point with a giant fireball. Super cheap doesn't even describe it. I don't think anybody actually liked it. I'm still super confused as to how this actually made it to the final build of the game in the first place when they were fully aware of Last Stand, and they did it anyway. Black Ops 2. If I had to pick one thing, I think I'm gonna... I thought about doing what was it? The Swarm, but then I backed off. It has to be the Target Finder. I could live with the LSAT being in Black Ops 2 if it didn't have the Target Finder. But the Target Finder was such a powerful optic that, I mean, it buffed the camping play so much, a lot of people just leaned into it and used it on all their weapons. Target Finder was a close-range optic that put this big red fat diamond on enemy players who walked into your field of view, and it would work through light, it would work through smoke, it would work through shadows. It made it impossible to hide. A lot of people would just throw a Target Finder on an LMG, sit in a corner or a head glitch, and spray people from across the map. Black Ops 2 is as close as we've ever gotten to a perfect game to me for Call of Duty, but the Target Finder optic was one of the few things wrong with it. It was way too powerful for all the wrong reasons. Speaking of way too powerful, Call of Duty Ghosts. The IEDs. Now, Ghost was already a really slow-paced game, so there was a few things more frustrating, or maybe not, than having your streak completely halted by a random little satchel charge on a random wall that you couldn't see because it was so tiny and the lighting was so dark. IEDs were basically C4 charges that would automatically detonate if somebody got too close to them, and it was super common for people to spawn in with them, throw them in a random area or hotspot, set it and forget it, run around the map, play the game normally, because in a minute or two, you would hear that distant explosion and get a kill or two, and you would just chuckle to yourself. IEDs were super cheap. Absolutely should not have been in the game. You may have expected me to put the SATCOM here, but no. I actually hated the IEDs more. Now we arrive at the first jetpack game ever. Advanced Warfare, first Call of Duty jetpack game ever. I think this one's pretty easy for me. The system hack. There seem to be some pretty mixed opinions on Advanced Warfare now, with some people saying it was underrated, other people saying it was terrible. I enjoyed Advanced Warfare, but one thing I hated was the system hack. It was a relatively cheap score streak that could bring matches to a complete standstill if you were using the right variants. Heck, even without the variants, the system hack was strong. Could turn the match around if you popped it at the right time. It would mess with the enemy team's exosuits, it would seriously hinder their movement, and there was a variant that would put a giant skull face on their screen for the duration of the hack. That's just adding insult to injury. Made it literally impossible for them to see the entire battlefield. I'll always defend Advanced Warfare from the haters. But the system hack, it's indefensible. Really shouldn't have been in the game. Black Ops 3. High caliber view kick headshots. Black Ops 3 did this weird thing where Treyarch turned down the bonus damage you got for headshots, so they basically didn't make a difference for your time to kill unless you were running the high caliber attachment that would crank the headshot bonus damage up again. But Treyarch also changed the way view kicking worked in Black Ops 3, so that getting shot would move your camera up almost 100% vertically. So if you were running high caliber and you were aiming at someone's chest and they shot back at you, your view would kick right up to their head. You would get those juicy headshot bonuses and you would kill them. High caliber on its own wasn't cheap. The view kick changes on their own were cheap, but when you put them together, it made the gameplay feel pretty inconsistent at times. Sometimes even felt like the game was punishing you for shooting back at people. That was frustrating, especially since the rest of Black Ops 3 was really, really good. Infinite Warfare. Trip mines. Yep. Trip mines, introduced in Black Ops 3, yes, then brought back virtually unchanged in Infinite Warfare. I still don't know why these were ever considered to be a good thing for a Call of Duty game. They stuck to any surface, would kill anybody near them once they went off. In a game with a ton of movement options and special abilities, it made stuff like this extra obnoxious to get killed by. You're running on a wall, you're sliding around the map, you're doing all the cool, awesome moves, and then boom! You're suddenly dead because someone on the other team decided to blindly throw a trip mine across the map 30 seconds prior. Thankfully, these haven't come back since we left the jetpack era of COD behind us, and I hope it stays that way. Now let's get out of jetpacks. Let's go to a more grounded experience, COD World War II. I'm going to go with S-mines. Now, landmines are nothing new in Call of Duty, but let me ask you guys a question. Why were they so tiny in this game? They were itty-bitty. Bouncing Betties, also known as the S-mines, in COD World War II were so small and almost impossible to see at times because of how heavy the motion blur could be and how much of the screen shook when explosions were going off around you. And on top of that, they were overpowered in hardcore modes because you literally couldn't avoid them. You know how you're supposed to be able to dodge Bouncing Betties by hitting the dirt before they explode? Well, the S-mines in COD World War II would still hurt you if you went prone before they exploded. In hardcore modes, the damage was still enough to kill you, meaning there was literally no way to avoid dying to them if you were a hardcore player. S-mines, they gotta go. They did go, but they needed to go. Black Ops 4. The Stim shot. The manual healing in Black Ops 4 was actually kind of appealing to me. I know a lot of people hated that change. I thought it was kind of a good way to shake up the formula and balance out the longer time to kill. However, the Stim shot in the game was too powerful. I think it messed with the balance of the game as a whole. Stim shot was basically a crutch feature in the game because if you weren't running it, you were at a huge disadvantage against anyone who was using it, which meant everybody was using it at all times. If it wasn't in the game and everybody was restricted to the default healing speed and cooldown timing, I think Black Ops 4 would have been a lot more fun, a lot less sweaty, but that's just my opinion. Now we get into the new Modern Warfare trilogy. We start off with Modern Warfare 2019. Easy one for me. The minimap. I have a lot of criticisms of this game. But honestly, a lot of things I didn't like about it could be overlooked or forgiven if the mini-map had actually worked properly, but unfortunately that was not the case. Never the case. The fact that red dots didn't show up on the mini-map in this game made it play way slower than other COD games because you never had a good idea of where the enemy team was, spawning, shooting, any of it. Often led you getting shot in the back a lot more than you would otherwise. Changing the mini-map in Modern Warfare 2019 has to be one of the biggest mistakes in COD history. I still have no idea why Infinity Ward thought it would be a good idea to do, because I'm dead serious when I say I would have been able to overlook a lot of my criticisms of this game if the mini-map worked the way it did in classic Modern Warfare games, because at least then, I would have been able to run around and not be constantly guessing where the enemy team was. Black Ops Cold War. The Scorestreak system. I can totally see why so many people think this is a top 5 Call of Duty game. Even though I wasn't a huge fan at first, it's grown on me as the updates came out, and now I think it's one of the best post-Black Ops 3 games in the series. But the weird Scorestreak system never connected with me in the game, mainly because of the cooldowns. Your score in the game doesn't reset upon death, but in order to compensate for that, Treyarch decided that they would make all the streaks really expensive. I guess that's fair enough. I mean, but there was also a cooldown after using one, so if you were using cheaper streaks like body armor or spy planes, you were basically being punished because you couldn't earn them over and over again in like other COD games. The whole appeal of running cheap streaks is so you can more or less spam them on the battlefield, just roll it over, but you literally couldn't do that in Black Ops Cold War because after calling in one, you had to wait 60 seconds or something in order to start earning another. I did not like that. Call of Duty Vanguard. The 10 attachment gunsmith. I know a lot of people love the gunsmith system, and I definitely know the appeal and I see it. I think Vanguard took it too far. The fact that you could put 10 attachments on any gun made it so as to there was always new broken builds being discovered because there was no possible way Sledgehammer could have tested every combination, and it also meant that a lot of the guns just didn't have any personality. When you customize the guns this much, you very easily turn them into entirely different weapons than they started out to be, which I think took a lot of character away from the guns. Now, I know a lot of you who watch this channel think Vanguard was an underrated game, but I have to be honest with you guys. I think the 10 attachment gunsmith system was too much for me. Modern Warfare 2, 2022. I'm going to go with the Footstep audio. I have no idea why IW made the footsteps in the game so loud, but they did. Actually, I may know why they did. It was to discourage movement and aggressive play. And you know what? That's part of the reason I couldn't get into this game. This is yet another game where a lot of my criticisms could have been forgiven if the game didn't fight me on playing it the way I wanted to play it. Modern Warfare 2 2022 simply can't be played like a classic Call of Duty game because the footsteps are so loud. Everyone can hear you coming unless you have dead silence. But dead silence is a chargeable field order instead of a perk, and it made a loud beeping noise when you activate it, so if somebody was nearby, they would just turn around and kill you before you snuck up on them. And hopefully, the right lessons were learned from this game, and the footstep audio never, ever, ever becomes a problem in COD again. And the final game of this video, Modern Warfare 3 2023. I'm going to pick the movement speed. I may get some heat for this, but I think Modern Warfare 3's movement is too quick. That may sound weird coming from a guy who also criticized games like Ghosts and Modern Warfare 2019 for being too slow and is excited about Black Ops 6, which is going to be the fastest Call of Duty game experience ever. But I think Modern Warfare 3 went too far in the opposite direction. And it led the game to being way too fast for my liking personally. It also kind of ruined the way the classic Modern Warfare 2 maps played to me. Modern Warfare 3 launched with all 16 of the classic Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer maps. But those maps played completely differently in the new game due to how fast everyone could run and mantle, which kind of led to a lot of those maps I used to love not being as enjoyable. I could be in the minority here, I probably am, but I really don't like how fast the default movement speed was in the game. I just think it made the gameplay a bit too chaotic. And there you have it. One thing that I hated about each Call of Duty. If you guys want to do the opposite and we go one thing we love, definitely let me know. Let me know. Give me your list. What's one thing you really, really didn't like about each one of these Call of Duties? I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon.